Okay, you're looking into getting into the RC hobby, but your current reactions are, wow, look at that gas-powered vehicle. It's this big. Look at that nitro one. It's the same size as this. Wow, look at that monster truck. Oh, it's called an X-Max? Stop right there and think, are you really ready for those kind of RCs? You're just starting out. Maybe you should start off with the simple things, like going to your hobby store, asking for help, or maybe going and asking a friend or watching YouTube channel like you're doing right now. So, you're looking into getting some RCs, but there's something you need to take note. Where are you going to be driving it? So, if you're driving it where I am, like a subdivision, nitro powered or gas powered vehicles are not your strong point if you're going to be driving here, because you have neighbors, you have a bunch of people around you, you have cars. Well, I mean, that's not going to affect it, but you have neighbors, which is the main point. And nitro and gas powered vehicles are super loud. So if you're going to be living in a subdivision or anywhere near town that has houses nearby, you should probably go and get an electric vehicle, because they're much more quiet and they're much more friendly to your neighbors. And then let's say you're living out in the country, or you have houses spread out a little farther. Well, then would be a good idea to get a nitro or gas powered vehicle, or even electric. It doesn't matter. And then you also have to take note, what surface are you going to be driving on? If you're going to be driving on grass, which I don't recommend because it drains your battery, it overheats your motor, it heats up your battery. But if you're driving on grass, you would want to get a scale vehicle like this, a 10th scale. Or if you're planning on going off-road, get a 10th scale, but there's more to it. If you're on a lower budget, you could look at 18th scale, which you won't really be able to take in the grass as well, but you can take it off on smoother off-road surfaces or a lot of on-road. And then you also have the variations. You have the off-road 18th scale, or even an on-road 18th scale. And then you have on-road 10th scales, which you can't actually take off-road very well. And then you have off-road 10th scales like this Traxxas Slash. But with like more off-road vehicles, you can upgrade them. You have so many option parts to pick from. So you can turn this into an on-road vehicle. But then if you're in the mood to make it a monster truck, you can make it a monster truck. If you want it to be or turn it back to an off-road vehicle, you can do that. The Slash is actually a really good vehicle. I'm not sponsored, obviously. Well, any 10th scale off-road vehicle will more than likely have a lot of upgrades you can choose from. Okay, the scale of RC, like this 18th scale Helion Animus, or this Traxxas Slash, this is a 10th scale. Well, your size and scale of your RC is more up to personal preference, and also, like I said before, where you're going to be driving it. Well, the things to note, like if you get an 18th scale, you won't have as big of a part, or as big of aftermarket support. While with like a 10th scale, you have a lot of aftermarket support. So yeah, if you want hop-up parts or any upgrades, just get a 10th scale vehicle. And if you're on a budget and don't care to really upgrade, mainly if you're on a budget, you can then get an 18th scale. But if you want something a little bigger, or if it's your personal preference, or if you want the ability to work on it easier, you can get a 10th scale vehicle. They are much easier to work on because you can actually get your hands inside the vehicle. It's just much easier to maneuver around inside the vehicle. So like I said, scale is up to personal preference. And then another thing to note, the scale of your vehicle, it's the scale compared to the real life version of your vehicle. Like this is an 18th scale of a trophy truck. The same goes with this. This is a 10th scale. Okay, the next thing to know, do you want a kit or ready to run? The difference between them, a ready to run would come like this Slash. it'll have the batteries, it'll come pre-assembled, it'll have all the electronics, while a kit is something you have to build. You'll have to follow the instructions, which is very highly recommended. And then with RTRs, there's variations, which RTR means ready to run, by the way. Like, if you can have an almost ready to run, which was how this Slash came, without a battery and without a charger. Or you'll have other RTRs come without any electronics, just vehicle itself and pre-assembled. Okay, there are some basic things that you really do need to know if you're going to get into the RC hobby and you're going to repair your vehicle over time. And that's your electronics. The electronics are some of the most important parts to your vehicle, so you can actually have a running vehicle. So let's start off with your batteries, which I should have probably brought one out here, but I didn't because of me. Well, your batteries, I cannot talk today. You have two main batteries that you'll usually come across. Nickel metals, well, nickel metal hydrides, NIMH, or lipos. The thing to note between them, the nickel metals are something you'll get more often with ready to run vehicles because they're much safer and they're much cheaper to manufacture and on cost. And then with the lipos, you get a lot more power. Like, they supply much more power to your motor and ESC. So that'll also require you to know if your ESC or if your motor will support said lipo. And then lipos are not as safe. Like, you can go on YouTube, you can see many different lipo fires. Many. And then that's another thing to note with batteries. With lipos, you can't just let your lipo sit over time. You should probably top it off every now and then. Not like, don't let it stay fully charged. You need to have it, I would say about 50%. I don't know the exact percent, 50 to 75%. You want to keep it around there, that level, if you're going to store it. Or if you have the Traxxas charger and batteries, you can just put it on the storage mode, which would be very nice. While with nickel metals, you don't really have to worry about that. Well, if you do let them sit though, they will die. And don't leave them fully charged either, because that's also very bad for your battery. The next thing is your ESC. It's called an electronic speed controller. It's what governs the speed, or how much power voltage is sent to your battery. Okay, well, that's another thing to know. You need to know your ESC's rating for the battery. Like I said before, if you have a battery that's too big for your ESC, it'll burn out, it'll catch fire, you'll have a very bad day, and you won't get a replacement from the manufacturer. And then your ESC is also what you normally turn your vehicle on with. And then you have your receiver. It's what receives a signal from your transmitter. I'll get to that in a minute. Your receiver also is what your ESC plugs into and your servo plugs into. And next, your servo. It's what you steer your vehicle with, and then you'll have to align it sometimes if you take your vehicle apart. There's not much to know there. Then your motor. Probably one of the most fun things to upgrade on your RC. Like this one, I have my friend's Castle motor. That aside, there are two types of motors. Brushed, which is here. I'll explain this in a minute. And then you have brushless. Brush motors have brushes in them. I don't know much more about how they work, but they're not as powerful and they will die much quicker than a brushless motor. And like this motor, I've already killed it and it's practically brand new. And then you'll know that your motor dies, your brush motor dies, because it'll first off make funny sounds. There's that, and then you have actual dirt in your motor. The funny sounds thing, you'll usually get that, and then you also have less power. You'll have your shaft in your motor, it'll move, which usually means you have a bad bearing, but this is kind of my first burnt out motor, so I don't know much about it. Either way, it'll die much faster, and they're also cheaper to buy, and they don't supply as much power. So then, let's say you want to upgrade your vehicle, which is highly recommended. Get a brushless, because brushless motors don't use brushes. They have a longer lifespan if you treat them right. And then a lot of brushless motors are not waterproof. Like, let's say this Castle Sidewinder, it is waterproof, and it supplies so much more power to this car. So like this brush motor, it'll get the vehicle up to 30, just barely up to 30. While this Sidewinder, it'll put it to 45. By the way, it's a 5700 kV. And another thing to note, your kV rating. I don't know much about them, but the lower kV, the more power your motor can support. And then your higher kV means you have more RPMs. This is by what I've heard. I might be wrong, so please correct me in the comments if I am wrong. Well, another thing to note, the brushless motors are much more expensive, like much more expensive. This brushless system was $100, well, just under $100. Well, this is $20, but it dies, and this is a lot more fun. And usually, I would recommend if you're gonna get a new motor and you're fairly new to the hobby, get a motor and ESC combo. Just do it. Like, get them in the same package, because they'll more than likely come working together. Okay, got the transmitter. Now we can continue. Cleaned up a bit. Okay, anyways. The first thing you do before you drive your RC, you need to know how to turn your RC car on, or truck. And usually, oh, it's already on right now. Okay, anyways. How you turn them on correctly, this is so your truck doesn't go flying off in the other direction at full speed, or it doesn't pick up another signal, which is not very likely. But I've never really seen it happen, and I've never had it happen to me. Well, actually, maybe I have had it happen to me. Anyways, you start by turning your transmitter on first, and then you turn your vehicle on first. Which I don't have a battery, so it won't turn on right now. Anyways, and then you start off by turning your RC off if you want to turn or stop driving, and then you turn your transmitter off. You always turn your transmitter on first and off last. It's not, driving a hobby grade RC is not like driving a toy grade RC, which usually they have weird controls, or they're all the toy grade RCs seem kind of confused, just like the toy grade quadcopters. Like my little brother Traxxas, I think don't tell him, I might buy him a good one sometime. Like a hobby grade, like the Hubson X4 or SS Proto X. Okay, anyways, your steering and your throttle and brake are all proportional. Anyways, sorry guys, I can't focus. You have proportional steering, you have a proportional brake, you have proportional throttle. And what that means is, if you want to go full throttle, you can go full throttle. If you want to have 50% or no throttle, and then you have all that. And then anything in between. Same goes with braking. You have 100% brakes, you have 50% or no percent. That doesn't make sense. You have no braking. Or you have anything in between from 0 to 100. And then, what else do you need to know? Steering. Same goes here. You have locked right, locked left, or if you want no steering, you have no steering, 50% right, 50% left, you have that. Or you have anything in between from 0 to 100% off to the right, or anywhere in between from 0 to 100% on the left.